the fantastic event we had at Utak Forum. It did very well online kahit medyo sablay-sablay yung live natin. Baka sinasabotage tayo. That was a packed event thanks to you and other great folks. Yes, including si Ronald Llamas joining us that day. Justice, ang dami natin pag-usapan obviously as we speak. Troubling developments sa West Philippine Sea, sa may Sabina Shoal, may mga pwede tayong pag-usapan sa West Philippine Sea. But let me start with things closer to home. Justice Carpenter, since may mga nakalakos ako ngayon. Ano pong balita niya sa heartbeat sa ground sa may malapit sa compound ni Quiboloy? I heard that the PNP is putting their meron silang gadgets that detects thermal ba yan at saka heartbeat?
Well, I think there's reason to believe what the PNP is saying na andyan lang siya. Is in a compound, but it's a huge compound, 30 hectares, ang daming mga buildings. So, and I think they have prepared bunkers, they have tunnels. So, it will take time really to comb everything there.
And Justice, do you think this is the beginning of the unraveling of not only the Quiboloy kingdom, but perhaps the duopoly with the Dutertes? I mean, without being overly excited, do you think this could be beginning of the final chapter in some sense?
Well, for Quiboloy, if he is extradited, that's the end of him because the U.S. will certainly get him and he will have to stay in jail for quite some time. So that's what he really fears. That's why he is asking the President BBM, to guarantee that he will not be turned over to the U.S. But nobody can make that guarantee. So that's what he really fears the most, that he will be extradited.
They always speak about extraordinary rendition a la Hollywood, yung mga dinadala sa Guantanamo ng mga Al-Qaeda suspects. What the heck is that all about?
No. I think they're just trying to say that to make it look that the Americans want to kill him. No, they want to put him to trial and jail him. I don't think that that sort of crime merits the electric chair. No, he will spend some time in jail,
and
if he's convicted.
And probably not as luxurious as circumstances as he may be used to. Just to be clear on this, so automatic ba yung extradition sa kanya since he's also facing charges inside the Philippines? I know he's on the FBI wanted list, but from a legal standpoint, how is that? Is that going to be sequenced or mauna yung US? How do you think this is going to work?
It's up to the Philippine government. We can give him to the US so that he can be tried there first, or we can try him here first. So it's really up to us.
And Justice Carpenter, what is your legal? Again, I know that you're not necessarily on top of this case, and you'll be cautious about making any legal analysis. But what is your, let's say, at least primary level legal read? Na dapat ba unahin natin for domestic judicial institutions, or baka better to let him face first justice in the United States, given the nature of his alleged crimes?
Well, I think we can give the Americans a first crack at him because they're ready already. They have gathered all the evidence, and I think they have strong evidence. So let the Americans first take a first crack at it.
And Justice, just again, question on the implications for the finance. I mean, we're talking about a very rich quote unquote kingdom, right? And Digong is kind of like the de facto administrator of all that money. We could be talking about, forget about billions of pesos, maybe approaching hundreds of millions of dollars. Just kasi na-interview ko si General Torre, di ba? Who was in charge of the operation. 30 hectare, tapos sobrang laki daw yung compound. I mean, may hangar. I mean, this is a lot of money, no? Justice, mas sequester ba yan ng Estado? How is that going to work from a legal standpoint?
Well, they will have to file forfeiture proceedings, but if the Americans try him first, well, those will have to wait, no? Because you'll have to show that these are the proceeds of a crime. So that might be that might require a lot of gathering of evidence. So probably if the Americans might have already built up the case there because his people uh, were seen or have been documented to be collecting uh, contributions there and sending the money here, no? So they might have fully documented all of this. So we'll just have to probably give the Americans the first crack.
And your sense is the Americans have a more more prepared dossier than the Philippine government.
Yeah, I think they're more advanced in the gathering of evidence, and there if the trial takes place there, his followers will not be creating trouble here like what they're doing now.
And just as what do you say about yung mga reports? I suppose fake news yan that maybe FBI or the Americans may be involved also in these operations, considering how complicated it is. Parang may mga underground tunnel siguro yan or something like that.
Well, I have no information on that, but probably they could have lent us some uh, uh, instruments to detect the presence of people underground. There, that's possible, but I don't think they're there.
Now, it looks like things are not looking so good for Quiboloy, and I think we have been seeing reports of him sending feelers of surrender. Let's talk about the other favorite son of Davao, like Duterte's. I mean, Justice Carby, where does that put Rodrigo Duterte as the other side of this equation of the whole Quiboloy enterprise? Because they're kind of tied at the hip, right? I mean, may pagka-Siamese twins the phenomenon there, no?
Well, he will be the administrator. He will have access to a lot of funds, a lot of properties. Uh, but probably there will be an accounting when they turn over. So it's difficult to assess exactly what are the funds he will be managing. But he has the legal authority to administer for sure.
Are you suggesting that he may not be really sad if ever Kibuloy is taken to the US? Like, oh, kasi di ba nag-release na, I feel so bad for Kibuloy. I hope you'll be okay. And then like, well, just in case, akong bahala sa lahat ng kingdom. I mean, that's an interesting conflict of interest for two very good friends.
Well, we don't know what we first of all we really don't know the extent of the properties or assets of the kingdom of Jesus Christ, no? Uh, because we don't know how it's structured. There could be a, a corporate body, they call it a corporation soul, uh, where it belongs to, theoretically, the assets belong to the congregation. And the trustee is the the head of the church. No? But I don't know how Quiboloy structured the assets, whether it's a corporation soul or not.
Interesting. So to create some, plausible deniability. Parang yung ginawa niya sa SMNI, di ba? Na parang may denial pa siya, is really in charge of that and all. So you can do some mumbo-jumbo corporate structuring around that.
Well, because for religious corporations, they call it the corporation soul. There's really just uh, one incorporator, and that's usually the bishop or uh, the head of the church. So I really don't know how he structured his religious entity.
Sorry, Justice, I'm pushing on this because from what I remember, you're a tax law expert, or at least, I mean, and you have an economics background. So siguro I'm pushing you too much on the money question, and we're both Ilocanos too. But Justice, speaking of the Dutertes, because I want to also talk about the PhilHealth issue, because you had the letter, open letter warning the administration on this issue. Because I want to remind everyone na hindi lang kami nagbabash lang sa Dutertes. We also have strong warnings for the current administration of Marcos. But before going to the PhilHealth issue, can I also get a little bit of your take on this whole Shimenat, this whole Sara Duterte meltdown, if I can put it that way, in the most polite way I can put it, sa budget hearings? I mean, ano ba yan? Parang checkmate ba siya? Ang wala talaga siyang masabing palusot, or it's just she's just weak, that she's a poor replica of her father, who would have probably been more entertaining and evasive, or octopus squid tactics, no, in dealing with this kind of hearings. Or surprised by how should I put it, sloppy Sarah was actually.
Well, that's really the spoiled brat in her. The she had a problem to begin with because the liquidation of the 125 million confidential fund turns out to be really defective because it was it was used to buy food, to buy tables and chairs.
10
So
million for rewards. Exactly 10 million. Like wala man lang 1 piso up, 1 piso down. What rewards do they give? Everything is sakto lang, 'di ba? I mean, like there's no there's no up and down. Grabe.
yeah, well, actually, the old man Duterte did that when he left office. Sinimot niya all his confidential funds were wiped out. I mean, he used to the last centavo, and he divided it equally between confidential intelligence fund. How can you be so exact in dividing? No, but that's how he accounted for it. He divided down to the last centavo.
Hating kapatid sa intelligence at sa security. I mean, that's a, I mean, just, I mean, I would say, I mean, aside from, I mean, we can talk about the spoiled brat angle, but it looks like, well, first of all, she's not the president. So iba yung presidente ka pa rin. You can get away with things a bit more. But she doesn't seem to have the right team also, no? Medyo sloppy yung kanyang communications team, sablay yung mga PR niya, parang hindi na proofread. They don't seem to be able to, parang wala siyang bongo to be able to, you know, make sure she doesn't get herself too much into trouble. Medyo parang JV team yung dinala niya sa hindi naman Malacanang, ano ba, Coconut, ano ba, saan ba siya? Saan ba yung opisina ng OVP nowadays? Di ba, Justice, parang very C-League yung kanyang staff. Parang ganun ang dating sa akin.
Well, that's the the mayora in her, no? Because if you're just a mayor, that's how you act. I mean, you're not too fastidious in those things. You're not very careful, and it looks like she has carried that over to her office as VP. And I think the liquidation of the confidential fund shows it, because at first glance, those expenses are not for confidential purposes. I mean, that's basic. And probably they did not expect that it will be revealed, no? Because it never happened in the past that uh, your liquidation of confidential funds has been exposed to the public.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much lack of due diligence, right? Parang hindi nila kinonsider yung posibilidad na mag-away sila ng mga Marcoses. I mean, I was writing about this 2021 pa lang. Like, inevitable, this is a divorce waiting to happen, right? I mean, like, I don't know what level of sloppiness we're looking at every single level. So, Justice, do you think she has even given more credence or at least inertia to the potential impeachment moves? Or parang late na masyado kasi it's September 13 na yung end of, ano, di ba? Yung magbe-break na yung Congress.
Well, there's still the second half, the last 3 years. No, it can still happen, and we don't know whether they will push for it because she's actually saying that there's a plan to impeach her.
I think she got it from our podcast, me and Ronald. Kasi tinanong sinong source mo? Hindi niya masagot. I think nakikinig siya sa podcast namin tsaka mga interview natin kay Sonny Trillanes. So, going back to this Justice Scorpio, do you think her inability to, I mean, not forget about her unwilling, parang wala siyang pake, hindi niya na-explain yung kanyang budget. I mean, that could even strengthen the momentum, no, in terms of going after legally, right? Not only impeachment, the Supreme Court case on confidential fund. I mean, how are you looking at it from that angle?
Well, she might be daring Congress to give her a 1 peso budget. I mean, and she plays the part of being
Big thing.
oppressed by Congress. Uh, but I think they'll give him just enough budget to run the office. No, but all of those other perks like having your own DSWD to give money away, that might not be given to her.
So tatanggalin lahat ng mga duplications na meron siya
Yes,
na pwede gawin ng ibang ahensya. I mean, she can have
that's
a
right.
quote-unquote Lenny budget, right? Leany budget. Yung lean na
Very
budget ni
lean.
Lenny, di ba?
Yeah, that means she will have to, uh, like Lenny, ask for donations if she wants to have projects.
Right. So looks like at least we have a precedence. At least lucky for her, there's the Lenny model. Ibang usapan kung she has the competence of Lenny or COA level transparency of Lenny. Now, before we get bashed for too much talking about Duterte's, I want to ask one last question on this before we transition to Marcos and West Philippine Sea Justice. Um, again, how did Davao end up with Duterte so on top? I mean, Davao has produced people like you. I mean, the Nograleses are not necessarily the paragon of progressive politics, but I mean, how come, like, how did Davao become synonymous with Duterte's? I mean, isn't that frustrating? I mean, ako, as a Ilocano, when people equate us to Marcos, it's parang hindi. I mean, we have so many other great Ilocanos, right? But I suppose for Davao people, some of them are wondering, why do you equate us to the Dutertes? And from the outside, why are the Dutertes the only game in town?
The secret of the Duterte, I'll tell you, it's the confidential funds. Because the old man Duterte invented that. He was the first mayor, the first LGU official to give himself, through his budget, passed by his own city council, a confidential fund. And it grew over the years. And when Sarah was the last time she was mayor, it was almost ₱500 million in confidential funds. You can just imagine what you can do with that. I mean, you can put all the spouses or children of all barangay chairs to in your payroll, and so you'll never lose in a single barangay. That's really the secret of the political power of the Dutertes. It's a confidential fund.
Right. No money, no honey. So as their funds get squeezed, are you saying that naturally their ability to flex their muscle will also be affected, no?
Well, it will. Well, right now, they still have confidential funds in the budget of the city because the Supreme Court has not acted on our petition. I was one of the petitioners there, questioning the constitutionality of these confidential funds.
That's very good point, Justice. I mean, of course, Sonny will say it's that money plus the muscle, which is, what we're referring to, the other DDS, right? The original permutation. Justice, now let's talk about the administration right now. Kasi binabash na tayo na masyado daw tayong Duterte haters. Gusto ko pa naman bumalik sa Davao. Na-miss ko pa naman ang Davao. I don't know about you, Justice, but I miss Davao. Let's talk about the PhilHealth issue because this is a big problem. And kanina lang I was with a mechanic friend of mine and he was telling me about yung flood control issue, bakit hindi daw pinag-usapan, bakit puro mga Dutertes ang pinag-usapan, bakit hindi pinag-usapan yung kapalpakan ng mga flood control. Ilang billions ang ginastos natin. Yung nakatakas si Alice ko, si Quiboloy hindi pa nahuli, and then of course is PhilHealth issue. Napaka laking skandalo ito kung totoo talaga yung mga ibang reports. So, Justice, can you remind us of the open letter? Was that an open letter you sent? I mean, the last time you had an open letter, it worked, right? Yung Pogo ban. So, you never know. Baka lucky number 2 na naman tayo.
Well, the basic thing here, there are two principles involved. No? Under the Constitution, in the executive branch,